Broadcasting from the KMF Collective Studio, it's time for the Athletes of the Titan Games podcast. This limited release show features the stories of the 2020 contestants of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's athletic competition, NBC's The Titan Games. Now, here's your host, Katie Galley.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 29 of the Athletes of the Titan Games podcast. I'm your host, Katie Galley. In the KMF Collective Studio with me today, I have Titan Games athlete, CrossFit coach, and nutrition coach, Natalie Talbert. How are you doing, Natalie?
Hi, Katie. I'm good.
Awesome. Well, Natalie, really thank you so much for stopping by and sharing your story with us today.
Totally.
So Natalie, just to get to know your background a little bit, can you share where you grew up and how, if at all, was your childhood shaped by athletics?
Yeah. I grew up in Concord, California. Mm-hmm. It is a small town over there, and I played sports all growing up. So sports has definitely influenced my life, you could say. I started swimming when I was 8 or 9. And then I quickly made the transition into playing competitive water polo.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that sort of propelled my athletic career. I played in high school, and then I played at San Jose State University in college.
Wow. And so how did you make that transition? I mean, from swimming into water polo, was there a league where you lived?
Yeah, so water polo is not a super popular sport, especially for females. Mm-hmm. But I played when I was younger, I played on a club team and really wanted to take it as far as I could possibly go. Mm-hmm. And then playing collegiately seemed like the next step, and I went from there.
Wow. And so from there, deciding that you wanted to take that next step, see where you could take your career, go to college, how did that kind of help dictate or help you decide on where you wanted to go and where you wanted to take that next step as far as the level of college play you wanted to take part in and just what school you wanted to go to?
Yeah, totally. I wish that I could say that I was making all of my college decisions academically, but that's not really the case.
Yeah.
So I had my high school water polo coach really kind of helped me navigate that process. And we started to look at different schools to play over time. And, you go on recruiting trips and you just try to see where sort of fits and what atmosphere you sort of jive with. And I ended up really liking San Jose State. And then San Jose State is actually only an hour away from where I grew up. So it seemed fitting to go there to play on a Division I team and then also have the capacity to come back and see my parents and still feel like I had some closeness to family.
Yeah, that's, kind of getting the best of both worlds, being able to be a Division I athlete in a sport that you love, but then two, being able to still stay close to home, be close to your parents and be able to travel back when you wanted to.
Totally. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. So Natalie, from there, having that chance to continue on with your water polo career at a D1 level, did you have aspirations to try and continue on after college, or did you know that you wanted to complete your career after that? What kind of was the next step for you?
Yeah, well, when I was younger, playing at the club level, I always wanted to go to the Olympics. That was like my goal, was that I was going to play water polo in the Olympics, and that fired me up a lot. And when I got to college, you're sort of inundated with all of the best high school players. Any collegiate athlete would probably tell you that.
Right.
So it was really cool. It was a whole different level of play. And it was really awesome to learn from and have that experience with a bunch of incredible athletes, both on my team and then just women that I got to interact with who are now Olympians playing at the national level who I played against in the water in college. But after I got done playing, I had some health issues that sort of, they didn't necessarily stunt my growth at all, but it sort of caused me to step back a little bit from my water polo endeavors. Not to say that I would have necessarily had the capacity to go much further than that by any means, but I was sort of sidelined at the end of my career. So it kind of made me look into things a little bit further and kind of assess where I wanted to go athletically.
And so having that kind of that assessment at the end then, and realizing, okay, I've had struggled with these injuries, and then making that decision of what you wanted to do. Was it tough? Did you decide that you were going to stop playing then, or did you want to try and continue on? And if you did, how difficult was it to navigate that transitional period of maybe stopping playing due to injury?
Totally. Well, it was not really my decision,
right,
at some point. So I was told at that point, when I sort of was experiencing the things that I was experiencing, that I could no longer play. So
wow.
It wasn't really a decision of mine. I was medically told, you can no longer play at this level. And I think at that point it was just a liability issue. So I was kind of forced to back down from my senior year, and it was a super big bummer, because when you get to your senior year, you're like, yeah, I found my stride. I feel like I'm really, gelling with my team and starting to really get going. And then to have it kind of ripped out from under me was super, it was hard at the time, but now looking back on it, like it's something that shaped the way that I've moved forward. So I definitely am, it's hard to say you're grateful for the experience, but I am grateful that I came out on the other side of the experience, and I was able to push for some other things that my body allowed me to push for.
Right. So it's being able to have that perspective, and maybe, of course, during it, that has to be so incredibly tough. I mean, the idea that you couldn't play your senior year, and just it was so hard. I can't even imagine how challenging that must have been. But then too, to now be able to reflect back and know, okay, that was a really challenging part of my life, but I came out on the other side stronger and better. And I know now what I can use all of that struggle for to help propel you forward, like you said.
Yeah.
I love that. And so Natalie, from there, having kind of that moment of hardship, and then overcoming it, looking forward, how did you eventually then become a CrossFit and nutrition coach?
Yeah, well, that's sort of the stuff that fires me up. Not the water polo doesn't fire me up.
Yeah.
But it was actually really great to make a transition. When you invest your time and energy into something for so long, it sometimes starts to feel a little bit daunting. And I never lost the love for water polo at all. I still love it. I still play in a master's league when I can.
That's awesome.
But yeah, totally. Pre-COVID, it was really cool.
Right.
But we haven't been able to play yet. But so I definitely still love the sport. I love the sport aspect. I love the team aspect that water polo sort of gave me throughout my life. But I really feel like when I dove into CrossFit, I didn't dive into it competitively right away. I have a competitive nature, and I've always been driven by athletics. But when I first started, that was not my intention. So it was kind of cool. I did it for health. My strength and conditioning coach at the time at the college that I was at, he owned a CrossFit gym. So it seemed like a natural switch to kind of keep my competitive juices going and still being able to stay healthy and fit. So I made the transition there, and it really wasn't until a couple years into it that I was like, yeah, I think I want to do this competitively. So I actually started CrossFitting. I moved out of the country. I came back, and then I started doing it more consistently. Then I got pregnant. I got married. I got pregnant. I had my daughter. And then I was like, yeah, I want to go to the CrossFit Games. So I did it a little bit backwards. Most people usually start their competitive career and then they have children. But right. I was, we definitely didn't plan to have our daughter. So it was sort of like well, I'm still going to push for this. So honestly, it wasn't until after I had her and experienced the empowerment of just being a woman and experiencing firsthand how strong I was that I sort of decided that I was like, yeah, I'm going to push for this. So then I started to train competitively on a team, CrossFit wise, and we wanted to push to get to the games. And that sort of morphed over time, or it has been morphing over time, into being just really invested in the athletes at the gyms that I get to coach at, and then really realizing what the lasting change is going to be. And I do believe that is fitness and nutrition. So it just seemed like naturally my life just started to shift in regards to health and fitness. And it shifted into figuring out how I could empower people to take control of their lives through their health and fitness.
I love that. I mean, and then too, having that realization because you went through it yourself. And so wanting to reflect that and give that back to other people. And so Natalie, I mean, leading this really incredible athletic journey and now coaching and fitness journey to empower and to help other people, just as you have been helped through fitness. How did this journey that you've been on ultimately lead you to the opportunity to compete on the Titan Games this season?
Yeah, well, that was an interesting little twist, I would say.
Yeah.
It was the Titan Games was definitely a surprise, and it was a pleasant surprise, I'll say that much. So it's funny because most athletes train and devote themselves to, their sport, their craft. And so I spent so much time specifically training for the water, and then I spent so much time specifically training for CrossFit, and I never spent a ton of time training for specifically the Titan Games. So when it sort of came into my view, it was super exciting because it just seemed like a really cool challenge. So super long story short, my father-in-law actually was the one who pushed me to the show. We watched it last season, and we just realized there were a lot of CrossFitters on the show, and we thought it would be really cool. And well, actually, I didn't even consider it, but he just began to fill out an application, and really from there, it just it worked. So a lot of time went by, and then they reached out, and at that point, I was just finishing a season of CrossFit, and so it was a pleasant surprise. It sort of felt like, okay, let's kind of keep these juices flowing and keep the season alive. And then, just went through the interview process of talking to different producers and telling my story repeatedly, and going through the combine and all of that fun stuff. And then there I was competing in Georgia.
Man, that is cool how you, like you said, you kind of treated it as an extension of your CrossFit season. So being able to continue on, but in a really unique way to keep that competitive drive alive.
Yeah, totally. You always, like, as I reflect on the show and my experience on it, like, I never trained for that. And that kind of made it even cooler because we train every day, we train in life, and it was just another space, another experience to sort of highlight the hours and hours that go into the gym and the hours and hours that go into, what I eat, what I do with my body. And so it was a really great opportunity.
Absolutely. And it really does seem that way. And then being able to say yes and go after that opportunity. And so Natalie, from there, having this experience and knowing too, it's kind of cool that The Rock created this show and having gone through his own, of course, athletic journey and through college and then pro. So for you, do you remember maybe the first time you became aware of who The Rock was? Maybe when you're growing up, or just at some point in your life when you became aware kind of his presence?
Yeah, totally. My dad is a really, really big fan. My dad is a big movie buff.
Yeah.
And so he was actually the one who introduced me to him. And I remember just being drawn to his humor. And that was, and it honestly, it reminds me of really good times with my dad. So which is funny because now I sort of view, and especially after the show, like, I have The Rock in this like fatherly place, because every time I think about, spending time with my dad and watching funny, really lighthearted, good movies, I remember The Rock, and I remember good experiences with my father. So it's kind of cool that they're both associated together. And then seeing him on the show and seeing him interact with my family, I was like, oh, he totally has that vibe, that like really positive father vibe that I was really grateful for. So yeah, that's kind of when his existence sort of appeared in my life.
And I love that. Of course, having the fondness of his movies, but then too being able to tie that to the relationship with your dad and remembering fondly, and then too the idea that you got to meet him and interact with him and be on a TV show that he created later in life. That's pretty awesome.
Totally.
The way it works out. And so then Natalie, having that experience, so being on the Titan Games, like you said, having that extension of your season, being able to compete against other incredible people, walking through different things in their life, just like you had overcome these incredible obstacles to get to where you are today. For you, what would you say is your definition of a Titan?
I have so many definitions of a Titan, and I think that my definition has been expanded since I have been around real life Titans. So, I mean, I know that you have watched the show. I know that you have talked with a ton of the competitors on the show, but I mean, these are people that I hold in very high regard and that I am so grateful that I get to know. And so honestly, they have helped me shape what it looks like to be a Titan and how Titans hold themselves and carry themselves and how Titans interact with the world. So, I would say a Titan is someone who can be repeatedly faced with adversity and always come out swinging, always come out wanting to give their best and to show their best effort and to fight through things. So I'm grateful to attribute a lot of the definition that I have for a Titan to all of the people that I got to meet and interact with actually filming for the Titan Games, and that I still get to hang out with and talk to and be inspired by. So I had an idea of what a Titan looked like, and I think I've always been striving to be a strong athlete and to be a strong female who shows young females what it looks like to be strong and what it looks like to be confident in your body and in who you are, regardless of what it looks like, but more for what it can do. And to just have that shaped so eloquently by the athletes on the show was really, really great. And the fact that I got to interact with those people and then represent a show that holds people on a pedestal like that was just such an honor. So in a very roundabout way, that's my definition of a Titan.
I love that. It touched on so many great things. But then too, like you said, I mean, it's being continually facing that adversity, but always coming out swinging, always figuring out your way around it. And two, how you attributed it to your own experiences, of course, but the fact that you got to meet with and interact with and compete with all these other incredible individuals. And so they helped then to shape that ultimate definition of what you view as a Titan and got to become, live into, and compete against.
Yeah.
So Natalie, I mean, from there, having this truly incredible experience on the Titan Games, overcoming your own obstacles through your life, and this amazing journey that you've led for yourself, leading through all the way through college and beyond, and to where you are now, and looking forward, knowing, of course, that you're going to accomplish everything that you set your mind to. I just have one final question that I ask all of my interviewees. What do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered for investing in and lifting other people up. So I think we are only as big as we are that we invest in other people. If we're not helping one, if I want to be remembered for just helping the one, right? If it's one person get to where they are healthy or where they can live life, I'm happy and I'm grateful. So I want to be remembered for investing in and helping people find what life is and helping them live it to the fullest.
Thank you all for tuning in to today's installment of the Athletes of the Titan Games podcast. To learn more about each of these Titan athletes, be sure to check out their information in the links in my show notes. Furthermore, to stay up to date on all things coming out of the KMF Collective, be sure to subscribe to the Keep Moving Forward YouTube channel and follow along on social media, also available in the show notes. As the creator of the Titan Games, Mr. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson says, "Titans aren't born, they're made." And I hope today's story helped you realize all that you are capable of becoming if you put in that hard work and just keep moving forward.